we want to go to our next part of the discussion, which is a panel discussion, and we are excited by the captains of industry who are well represented here that will be able to guide us on this particular conversation. On my part, I have the privilege and the honor of inviting the panelists, and our panel discussion is on building Kenya's multi-stakeholder digital future. Our first panelist, ladies and gentlemen, is an economic and public policy expert from the Meta platforms. Please help me appreciate with a warm round of applause Desmond Mushi as he comes forward. Desmond, we are glad and honored to have you here representing the Meta platforms, an economic and also public policy expert. Welcome, Desmond. Glad to have you. Our next panelist, ladies and gentlemen, is a man who has quite the expertise when it comes to policy, leadership, management, and also ICT strategic leadership. He is the Deputy Director, ICT Communications Authority. Please help me appreciate with a warm round of applause Mr. Joseph Nzano as he comes to join us right here on the panel. Fantastic. Our next panelist, ladies and gentlemen, is an expert in policy and governance. Just to mention a few, I hope she is still in the room, or probably she might have stepped out. Please help me appreciate the Director, Digital Transformation Center Kenya, GIZ, Christin Schulz-Kaunga. Is she here in the room? And I know she's going to come and join us. But please, let's appreciate her. I know she's going to join the panel shortly. And our next panelist, ladies and gentlemen, is a mentor to the women in technology and is the head of service management, digital transformation at Safaricom. Please help me appreciate with a warm round of applause Lillian Kiambati as she comes forward to join the panel. Thank you, Lillian. We are glad and honored to have you here. And our next panelist is a proactive, passionate, driven, and dependable communications professional. She is the communications manager at Paradigm Initiative. Please help me appreciate Judith Ogutu as she joins the panel. And as we say in Swahili, makofi tafadhali. Okay, fantastic. And ladies and gentlemen, to moderate this particular session is the CEO and convener at KickTanet, a visionary leader par excellence. Once again, please help me appreciate our moderator, Dr. Grace Githaiga, as she comes forward to moderate this session. Welcome to our panelists. Welcome, Dr. Grace Githaiga, and over to you as you proceed with the panel discussion. Thank you.
Right, so my panelists have been introduced, and in the interest of keeping time, maybe as they respond to the questions, they can give us more details on what they do. But this is the rundown of the panel. I will be fielding a question to each. So my panelists, karibuni sana. To this panel, and my first question goes to Nzano, who is representing the DGCA. So I don't need to explain the panel; it has been explained by Ian. But as a person from the regulator, the industry regulator, how can regulatory frameworks be adapted to ensure they support and enhance open, transparent, and inclusive governance processes for the internet, while at the same time addressing concerns around security and privacy? Karibu.
Thank you so much, Daktari. Good morning, everyone. Skipping the introductions, I'm representing the Director General, Communications Authority of Kenya, who had another assignment and could not make it. To the question, there's a lot that the government is doing, and as you have heard today, even from the speech by the Principal Secretary, a number of issues are going on, including revision of the regulatory frameworks, which are already put in place, starting, of course, with the Constitution, which we can't ignore. That's the first governance point of reference, which has very specific articles that refer to the various freedoms when it comes to, of course, respecting transparency and openness. We also have the Kenya Information Communication Act, which, as the PS informed, is under revision. There are some 16 regulations which are being looked at. I hope you all had opportunities to give inputs. If not, I believe it's not too late. There's also the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act, which was mentioned earlier. Of importance here are the regulations which are coming with the Act, which actually articulates a lot of details with regard to what is expected of us in terms of our expectations. Like when I was going through them, I realized that apparently each and every entity in Kenya now needs to have a Chief Information Security Officer. Now, these regulations, they also provide the job description of this Chief Information Security Officer. So, and that this needs to happen like in the next 12 months after the regulations were enacted. So, I think we are already within the 3 months there. So, these are things that we need to read and look out for, because in short, you have about 9 months to comply to such. But however, also we have, of course, data protection, which I'll not repeat. It's quite known. It's very impactful in the society already. The ICT policies, the digital economy blueprint, among others. And with all these legal frameworks in mind, then we approach in various ways. One, of course, is through multi-stakeholder approach. And it is through forums like these ones, which have been going on for the last 17 years. And I must congratulate the conveners of KeIGF. I actually participated in the first one 17 years ago. And it was in a small room in a place called Afralti, around Wayaki Way. But now you can see the far that we have gone, and congratulations for that. I think you deserve a big clap for maintaining and growing the KeIGF. And in all these KeIGFs, for example, the government has been participating, in particular Communications Authority. I think this is the first time I have not seen our logo here. So I was asking my colleague what happened, and we will discuss it at some point to make sure that perhaps the next financial year we need to have our logo up here somewhere. But all said and done, in Christianity, there's what they call the ministry of presence. So today we are sponsoring by being heavily present. We have more than 4 delegates from the authority who will participate in about 4 panels which are upcoming. And we are here to listen, of course. We are here to gate as much as possible feedback which we can take back, of course, to our Director General and top management of the authority, so that we can be able to consider on issues of governance going forward. Currently, we have over 68 million mobile subscriptions. 51.2 of them are mobile data, and 37.2 million are mobile broadband prescriptions. Now, 17 years ago, we were discussing very small numbers, but now these numbers have grown. 17 years ago, there were no Gen Zs. Now we have Gen Zs. And these are the most heavy users, of course, of the internet, right? And we have had before the issues of spaces like the X, no offense to Meta is here, but also the other, of course, other platforms, Instagram, Facebook. You know, as a regulator, we have to be neutral. And then also, what Safaricom and other service providers were here, who have provided the infrastructure, and also what the government has done in terms of laying out cables. We are looking at laying out over 100,000 fiber cables across the country. My colleague Paul will give you the exact details, how far he has gone. I think he's almost about 60–70% in this initiative. We are talking about initiating services over the e-citizen platforms. We had a target of about 5,000 by June this year, which we surpassed. Currently in the e-citizen platforms, the government is accessible to you right to your mobile device, of over more than 12,000 services which you can run right from your mobile devices. I think that the government deserves a clap for that. And, oh, nobody's clapping, please. Yeah, we respect the various, of course, initiatives that are happening around regulations, the National Cybersecurity Strategy, how cybersecurity governance is going on. We are in total respect, of course, to international collaboration, what is happening at a global nature. We try to participate in global activities, for example, like the open-ended governance forum, where member states have put across in the UN various issues with regards to governance of the internet, including having norms and principles, international laws, how we should behave between country to country in terms of internet governance, confidence building measures, capacity building, regular institution dialogues. Among those also, we have to be adaptable and of course flexible. We support various sandboxing activities within the country. We partner, of course, with the private sector more now than ever in participating on various sandbox activities within the country. At the authority, we were the first to recognize that cybersecurity is a key issue, because we set up the Kenya Incident Response Team Coordination Center way back in 2011, and we enhanced it more in 2014. Most of the guys, most of the giants, of course, in the security sector are not seeing this area as key, but now as we speak, in any security setup, the internet and cybersecurity is on top of the agenda of discussions. Even brief downtimes, like when Microsoft went down for 10 hours, I think the day before yesterday. It was a big topic globally, isn't it? But before, nobody would have really recognized that. But now, because of the heavy dependence and the heavy reliance on such cloud activities as those, then it shows indeed that the services are important. The same way when the e-citizen platform went down for some few hours, just some few hours, it was a big issue because Kenyans will not get their services. That's why now the government is working hard in making sure that the services are available, high availability, and sustainability in terms of giving services to all Kenyans. Public education and awareness is key, and I'm finishing. This is very important because we need to partner, we need to educate on best practices to discourage misinformation, disinformation. I'm sure most of us were shocked the other day when even leading medias in the US were complaining about a deep fake video of the US president, if you recall, President Biden. Some guys were saying that he may not be breathing and that whatever is being shown there is a deep fake animation of himself, but that was not true because later on we saw him speaking. So it's a key thing that we all need to be alive to and see how best to behave within the governance issues. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Nzano. When you said KeIGF started at Royalty, they didn't have a timer then. So as you can see, we have a timer, and you have exceeded your time. But you know, Nzano is from the regulator, so we have to be nice. Lest they decide that they will shut down the internet. What we experienced on June 25th, Nzano, was like sickness. For real, those of us who are so used to internet, we sat, and at that heat of the moment, we tried to purchase Starlink, but the credit cards were not working. Neither were So we realized how we have become dependent. So we have to be nice to Nzano. Thank you very much. My next question, and please stick to the 5 minutes so that we have time for people to ask, goes to Lillian from Safaricom. What role can mobile network providers play in promoting and facilitating bottom-up governance processes for internet, particularly in underscored and underserved and rural areas?
Good morning, everyone. I'll be a little bit loud so that you guys wake up and don't sleep. And I just want to take you back to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I hope you all saw that it was modified to accommodate Wi-Fi in it. And Wi-Fi even comes before food, right? I'm sure the Gen Zs can feel me. So when you look at how it's drawn now, self-actualization is up there. Wi-Fi is at the basic of the basics. And when you look at it, like Grace is saying, when internet is down, you feel sick because you're grounded. So when it comes to connecting the unconnected and then the underconnected, of course, there's a lot that the industry needs to do, and I'll just break it down into 4 in some of the areas where we have contributed, and it's still a journey that we need to push ahead. And of course, connectivity, like I have said, is a basic that everybody must have now. And when you look at how we can contribute, or we have started contributing to the industry, is when you look at the Universal Service Fund that is supported by the regulator. And this is where they tell the investors, please put special funds aside so that we can be able to connect that person in rural Kenya, that person in Marsabit, North Horr, so that they can be able to enjoy the services like everyone is. Because when you look at most organizations, of course, when they look at their investments, the justification or ROI to the other investors is how much can we be able to make in this area. And that's where Universal Fund comes into play. So, and we have been able to do a lot with the support, and a lot is still ongoing. And it has helped us, of course, now reach in terms of population coverage, getting it to greater than 97%. And also, when you look at it also, there's more incentivization that is required in terms of broadband connectivity, especially in the low-cost areas. And what we are doing as organizations is like looking at what cheap solutions can we be able to deploy to those areas while considering, while putting price as a factor. So that's why some point-to-multipoint links are also coming into play in those areas, so that we can also have a competitive edge in terms of providing affordability to people in low-income areas. And of course, after connectivity, like when you look at the OSI layer, it comes to devices. When it comes to devices, when you look at smartphone penetration in Kenya, we are at around 58%. And how affordable are these gadgets to a normal Kenyan? They are very expensive. That's why I'm happy with Safaricom. We came up with the Lipa Mdogo Mdogo platform, whereby we are telling Kenyans you can own a device and pay 50 shillings or 30 shillings per day to be able to communicate on that device. So when you look at that fundi at site, they can be able to get their device and pay daily because they live on a daily rate, yeah? And we've also seen other players come into play like Watusimu. So that is another way of making sure that at least we are able now to connect, to reduce the digital device. And I'll give an example of how we connected Faza Island to GSM back in 2000, I think it was 2004. And when we took connectivity there, we saw, I mean, how are people going to power the devices? And what Safaricom did, they put power sockets outside the site and told the community, come and charge for free. Because how else were they going to charge the phones? And you're seeing small things like those are the ones that are making a difference in our community. And the third one comes to delivering local content that people can relate with. How will that North Horr person be able to relate with the content that is global? So if you deliver something that they can start relating with, they are able now to use the services and also just come up with things like digitized agriculture, digi-health, you know, education for all. And of course, also now through that, we are able to deliver financial inclusion through M-Pesa to those communities that are unserved. And I believe if we work together as private industry and as government, we'll be able now to deliver these services to the people. With your support, at least we'll be able to get to the 8.5 million fixed broadband that the PS has mentioned, and we'll be able to move our smartphone penetration from the current 58% and drive it even higher in our country. And trust me, we'll go to the likes of Singapore and China, where everybody is connected, pushing gigabytes of data, and that's where we need to be able to progress forward as a country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lillian, even for keeping time and for those critical points. We know the day of the shutdown, Safaricom was also on the firing line, and I always ask, why do we stay on Safaricom? But I was told we are Kenyans with our peculiar habits. We drink Tusker, we wash clothes with Omo, we've refused to move to other detergents, we've refused to move to other mobile providers. So really it's our problem, eh? It's our peculiar.
Thank you for staying with us.
It's our peculiar.
And please stay with us.
I don't know, Starlink had a moment that it missed. Hopefully they will have another moment. Now, to you, Desmond, we are coming to you like this, and please keep time. How can tech platforms balance their commercial interest with the needs to support open, transparent, and inclusive governance of internet? And what specific initiatives can be implemented to achieve this balance? And I'm asking you this question because, a lot of people think social media is Facebook. Even when TikTok has had an issue, people blame Facebook. So please speak to us and speak on behalf of platforms.
Thanks, Gigi. And I was just hoping you would say Tusker, Omo, Safaricom, and Facebook, just to ensure that we are consistent. I'm Desmond Mushi, Public Policy Manager at Meta, and Meta is a platform that is a company that owns the platforms Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, WhatsApp, as well as Meta AI Technologies. And to just answer your question, I think the first thing that I would say is that ensuring safe use of our platform is in our commercial interest. I think I would say that is true for all tech platforms, including Safaricom, Airtel, and other mobile network operators. But to answer your question, I'll just, a number of things that I would say. The first thing is just how we are as a team, the role we play as public policy teams. And I'm joined with my colleague, Sarah Muyonga. Sarah, just wave. And really our role at Meta is to act as ambassadors between the company, that is Meta, and our stakeholders. And stakeholders could be regulators or government, ministries of tourism, CSOs, networks like Kenya ICT Network, mobile network operators to innovators in Kenya. And what we really try and do is to bring some of the opportunities that Meta presents, like the PS was talking about, to Kenya, but also to take some of the challenges, issues, and frustrations that our stakeholders and constituencies have in our region to Meta. So that's one way of ensuring inclusivity. And to do this, we understand that we don't know everything, so we work very closely with partners, with people who are experts in their spaces. I see Lillian here. When you think about child safety, for example, I am not an expert in child safety. I understand what I do understand, so we heavily rely on the work that we do to our stakeholders. The first thing that we do as a platform, as Meta platform, is how we are designed and how our products are developed. And the way our products are developed in such a way that they uphold privacy, so we do it with privacy in mind, and that it gives you the guardrails to ensure your safety and security. So there's things that you might not want to see. You are able to filter some of the phrases or words or comments. You can filter who gets to see what it is that you share, and whose content you don't want to see. You can actually, so you have the power to ensure that you see the kind of content that you want to see, and that you can get rid of the things that you don't want to see. The other bit is and that's for Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger. But if you think about meta technology, AI technologies, so Llama, for example, Meta AI, the way they're built with aspects around fairness, inclusion, and transparency in mind. And to that effect, some of the things that we usually share is we share the steps that we take to ensure that, we share it with researchers. For example, we have the open source libraries that share our codes, the codes that we use and the models that we use to ensure that someone can trace and almost, audit the processes that we take to ensure that, they are fair, they're inclusive and transparent for that particular matter. And for developers that want to innovate in Llama, for example, we give them responsible guide, which is best practices on how you can do so and uphold safety and security of potential end users. The second thing is policies that we have or guidelines that determine what stays or doesn't stay on our platforms. So I'd say a number of things to that. That these policies are developed with inclusion in mind. They are cognizant of realities and experiences of people from all corners of life. And even in developing them, and I remember for Kenya, for example, 2 years ago, we were reviewing a bullying and harassment policy. We interacted with CSOs in Kenya, including Kictanet. We interacted with Communications Authority to understand some of the frustrations and nuances when it comes to bullying and harassment. To just give you a little bit of context, the challenges that we are getting in our region is that there was a very thin line between political speech or calling leaders to action and almost bullying them and bullying their families and friends and people that associate with them. You're not really questioning the work that they're doing. You are basically going at them on their sexual competencies and things like that. So we got together, we took comments and feedback from people and then took it internally to make sure that the policy is reviewed so that it reflects realities of the stakeholders that we work with. The other bit is the enforcement of policies. So how the policies are enforced, it's really with inclusion in mind, and that's ensuring that people in Kenya can tell us that some of these things that are happening really aren't healthy. They can be inciting and things like that. So we have inclusion in mind. We're also transparent in that we share transparency reports on our community standards and enforcement work that we've done quarterly, for example, on takedown requests from governments, on data requests from governments and things like that. So to ensure that you can go back and check what different governments are asking from Meta, even when there is threat detection. So when there is coordinated and authentic behavior, whether by non-state actors or state actors, that is something that we are transparent about. And it's not an easy place to be. On accountability, some of the initiatives that we have in mind is what we call the Oversight Board, which is a board that can go and review some of the work that we've done on our content moderation work and almost call us to question. I know I am I'm running out of time. The one last thing that I would say is on partnership, and I think for me this is really important, and Nzano also spoke to partnership as well, and to this effect, the reason this is important is, as I said earlier, we don't know everything. I think we are able to do the things that we do because of the partners and the strength of the partnerships that we have on the ground. And so for the work that Sarah, myself, Mercy, and Helen do for the Eastern Horn of Africa, I really rely on the work that we do with the Kenya ICT network, the support we've been getting, and we've been giving to the Kenya Internet, the KeIGF, Internet School Governance, to train young people so that they can become the kind of future leaders that they have to be. And so that's kind of what I would say, to just try and keep time as well. Thanks, Gigi.
Okay, thanks, Desmond. As you were talking about you not being mentioned, I think I will not be fair not to say that WhatsApp is part of the Tasker group and Safaricom. When you threatened us with intrusion of our privacy, we moved to other platforms. We moved to Telegram, we've moved to Signal. Then, mdogo, we started coming back to WhatsApp. Our group started convening again on WhatsApp. So somebody would leave Telegram and come and say, when did you guys come back? So WhatsApp is another tasker, because why are we there? Why are we not utilizing the other platforms? It's because of our uniqueness as Kenyans. So you will be happy to hear that. Now, Christine, we come to you as somebody and as from an organization that has been supporting digital policy, digital engagement, digital rights. What strategies can funders adopt to support initiatives that promote open, transparent, and inclusive internet governance? And how can they ensure that these initiatives are sustainable in the long term? Those of you who have worked with donors, you know after 3 years you are told, where is your sustainability plan? Or in year 2, we need to see your sustainability plan. That is the time that you are figuring out, this is what we need to do. Christine, in 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'll try to stick to it. And just as a little reminder, I'm heading a GIZ project that's called the Digital Transformation Center. It's funded by Germany and the European Union, and you actually find some of my brilliant colleagues across the room here. We have a table, a DTC table over there, Tevin up here in the front, so you might know some of them already. So yes, great question. And actually, I think, first of all, when we think about those strategies, cooperation partners, funders, the donor community, I think they could and should adopt approaches that are essentially not so different from the strategies that other stakeholders should adopt, and that we've heard here from my colleagues already, be it government, civil society organizations, academia, a private sector. I think we have a lot of things in common, and I think what we have in common is that we usually work with certain goals. We have KPIs that we need to achieve. We have to usually account for time and resources, and for that we usually plan. We often like to plan in linear processes. And I believe, and that goes a little bit into what my colleague from Meta said, we don't know everything, and I think no one knows everything. And I think thus the strategy to promote open, inclusive internet governance is basically also to shift the focus from the end result to the design process. So now this sounds quite abstract, but what I essentially mean is that obviously first we have to acknowledge that we are never done. With all those topics and challenges that we discuss, we are never done. We are in a continuous loop of refining and redefining. Internet governance will always be something to catch up with. It catches up with innovation. But I think this process is exactly where the value is created and where resources and energy needs to be allocated. And I think when we look into the last weeks in Kenya, we see exactly there was a lot of energy and a lot of resources being allocated. And I think, yes, as a second point to it, our tech world is complex. We all know that, it's not new. The internet is everything, it's all encompassing. For its governance to be linear, easy to plan, expert driven is impossible. And I think the times where we had a couple of experts in a closed room coming up with a blueprint for solutions spanning the next 5 years, they're simply gone. I think it's very clear now we need everyone, we need all of you, we need all of us to find solution for our challenges. And I think that brings me to the next point. With this in mind, we need to accept open ends. We need to accept that our KPIs are constantly changing. And we need to utilize new platforms that are actually not so new, but we need to utilize them and recognize that, hey, this is actually where policy making is happening. That's what we've seen the last weeks. And I think changing KPIs and having question marks, having those open ends, they're not a sign of bad planning, neither in government, neither for donors, neither for private sector. And I think we need to have, we need to see the value in having very diverse judgments on those processes. And we need to be able to work with different scenarios at the same time. So for me, essentially, it's a skill set of somewhat accepting ambiguity and trust those processes, that if we involve the right people, if we take time, if we look and think twice, and if we value the input that is constantly being generated and is constantly out there, we will get the sustainable outcomes that we look towards having. And maybe also now this is still a little bit abstract to show that this is actually happening, and we've seen it in a huge scale now in Kenya happening in the last weeks, where we saw policy making happening and where we saw a lot of energy and resources being, of all of us, being dedicated to this, but we also see it on a small scale. And I'm actually also happy to refer to a process that as the GIZ Digital Transformation Center, we're very humbled to be supporting. It's the currently ongoing process of coming up with Kenya's very first national AI strategy. And I think for those of you who have been part in the process, and I think it's very likely that we have people here in the room who have been part already in this process, you see that this process is taking quite some time. And if we compare it to other processes of coming up with AI strategies that we've seen across Africa, be it Tanzania, Nigeria, other countries, we might recognize that Kenya is taking more time now already. And not so much, is being able to be shown and presented now. But I think the reason behind it is that for the very first time, it's a hugely inclusive and transparent and participatory process. So as we talk, we have different groups of different experts coming together weekly and discuss. We have a series of town hall meetings that are being planned and carried out throughout Kenya, not only in Nairobi, to gather experts, to gather different people from different sectors, academia, civil society, research, to come together and to discuss. And I think in those processes we see we are in parts already on the right way, and we need to realize that coming up with the right solutions might take more time and might take more resources, but in the end it will still save us actually a lot, because we will have the results that we can actually work with. Yes, so I think from this point of view it's a little bit fitting into this idea of we don't know everything, no one knows everything. And we have to shift, from looking towards KPIs, and this is what we need to achieve, and to this is how we want to achieve. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Christine. I love that saying, when it comes to internet, it is never done. I want to remind you that we are using Slido for questions. I already see there are two questions, but I think one was for the PS. There is already one for Lillian. So please go to, if you're not there already, go to Slido. You can either scan the QR code to get onto Slido, or you can just go to slido.com, then use the code KeIGF 2024, and you get there and you go to the Q&A, and please put in your question, because we are coming there shortly. Now, finally, Judith, representing the civil society. People want to demonize civil society by calling us noisemakers, but I always take the opportunity to remind people that most of the freedoms you are enjoying are because somebody fought for them, and most likely it's civil society. The Gen Z have also joined that. We are going to be enjoying some freedoms because of those fights. So don't demonize the fights. Don't demonize those who do that. After all, we must ensure that human rights, where internet governance is concerned, we must have human rights. Finally, Judith, from Paradigm Initiative, how can what are the most critical challenges, and maybe I will just ask you to mention 3 as a maximum, to achieving a vision of an open, transparent, and inclusive internet, and how can stakeholders effectively collaborate to overcome them? I know we are the ones who push for collaboration, for stakeholder engagement. Please take it away in 5. So at exactly 20, we will stop you.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. So the key thing here, I look at connecting the unconnected. That remains a huge challenge. You find that globally, so far, maybe 2.9 billion people are the ones who have access to internet, but then you find that some are unconnected because they've chosen not to. They don't think internet is important. But then some are unconnected because they are not able to. So you find that this remains a big challenge, and it is something for us to think about, all the key stakeholders. What can we do to ensure that the unconnected are connected? Another challenge I see is internet shutdowns, and as Grace mentioned, for the first time in Kenya's history, we went through an internet shutdown, and that is something that is a big deal, because once the internet is shut down, then everything goes down, especially for a country like Kenya where we use internet a lot. So you find government have used different tactics. We have internet throttling, we have network disruptions, we have outright internet shutdown. So that also is something I see as a big challenge. Another thing I see as a big challenge is the cost of access to internet. I must acknowledge that a lot of effort has been done to ensure that the cost of internet comes down, but then we still have cost issue to deal with, the cost of data, the cost of devices, the cost of access. So these are things that still are inhibiting this free and open and transparent internet. Issues like taxation, you find that even when you look at the last financial bill, where did the taxman raid? They were going to raid the internet service providers. They were going to raid the gadgets. So you find that this is something that it keeps on occurring, and there's usually a space to look, okay, what else can we grab from here? So you find that this touches across the fees on services, the duties that we pay for different gadgets, and then of course taxes for equipment and providers. Another challenge I see is digital illiteracy, because you find that as much as, yes, we have access to internet, but how many people can use it effectively? There's a challenge in that particular area. So how then do we ensure that there's increase of awareness on how to use this particular platform so that it's effective? Another thing I see is the language issue. You find that a lot of content on the internet is in English. 55% of the content we have on the internet is in English. So we have maybe 12 top languages like Russia, German, French, Chinese. But then you find that if it's in English, then if those who are not able to speak English are to access internet, how then do they go about it? So that to me is also a big challenge. I know you meant, I'm just summarizing them. Another issue is the structural and cultural challenges. You find that currently on the continent, and even in Kenya, we still have the gender gap, which is a big deal. You find that a lot of more men have access to internet than the women. So this becomes a challenge, because you find that according to the ITU, 62% of men use internet compared to 57% of the women. So this remains a challenge. Another thing we have is the generational divide. You find that they're the older people who cannot access internet, they're the younger people who cannot access internet. So this also remains a challenge, because there's no flatness or inclusivity in that particular space. And of course, another issue I would mention is the inclusivity for persons living with disability. How are they able to access this internet? So these are things that keep on emerging, and to me, they play a big role, and especially when it comes to just ensuring that everyone has access to internet. So I'll sum it up there. Thank you.
Thanks so much for keeping time. Actually, you've even given us 1 minute, which is very good, because you'll help us keep time. Now, so many questions for Meta, one for Safaricom, and I think there was one for government, but somebody has decided to just bring it down. I think it would have gone to Nzano on the supportive mechanism for local apps, but since it's not there, I think we can just give you a break. Now, the first one to Lillian. As you can see, there is a question on Lipa Mdogo Mdogo. Why does Lipa Mdogo Mdogo charge more than 50% as interest? And you're given there the statistics. A phone, 20,000, and a Lipa Mdogo Mdogo will cost 31,000. I don't want to read the last sentence, but
I've read it. I've read it, and you know, from our job, we are trained to listen to our customers and take feedback. So I'll list that as one of the feedback from our customers. But one of the key things I will also mention is that device affordability remains a big challenge in our country. When you look at tax prices, it's still very high. And, my ask on this table, because everybody is listening, and I'm sure we also have KRA here, or people who can speak to KRA as we speak to KRA, is we do need more tax incentives on devices. That is number one. Number two, we have a local assembly in Athi River, IDAC, that we have started that has employed local Kenyans and is making a big difference in the country. So we need more of that. How can you incentivize more organizations to set up more IDACs? Then you will see the cost of devices come down significantly. So that is the ask from the table for us to be able to drive that inclusivity, so that the same way Gen Zs are driving with Uber to town and using iPhones, the ones in Turkana can be getting there and still being able to afford a good device that has a good camera where they can access information globally. So I think that is one of the actions, but feedback taken on the interest rate, I will make sure that your voices are heard. Thank you.
All right. I think there are a couple of questions for Meta. Desmond, do you want to respond to them?
Yes, I think the first question was on policies and guidelines. So, policies and guidelines employed by Meta platforms, how they are localized. I think, as I said earlier, the development of these policies is, uniquely consultative. To be quite honest, we consult with academia, with CSOs, with industry actors across the world. So, as policies are being developed, they take into account perspectives of various constituencies from all corners of the world. That's the first bit. The other bit is that these policies are global in nature, and so for them to be enforced, they need to be principled, based on principle, and they need to be operational. And so to do that, sometimes at the point of enforcement, you need to take local realities. So something might be okay in Tanzania, for example, and not okay in Uganda, or okay in Ethiopia, but can be inciting in Kenya. So the same content in different jurisdictions can have different impact, and so what we focus on is the potential for harm because of that content, and not necessarily whether or not it is allowed by the law or something like that. So the way we enforce on our community standards is really based on perspectives of stakeholders who understand the context on the ground, so that's CSOs like Paradigm and others, who can tell us actually the way this content is inciting in Kenya. You might not understand it that way, but that is what it's doing. And some content can be inciting in different times and different moments. It could be okay to have that content today, but in a month's time, it could mean something very different in the spaces that the content is shared. So that's one. I think there's another question on safety and privacy, especially on derogatory terms and things like that. The way in which we do this is, as I said earlier, we work very closely with CSOs, but as well as regulators and others who report content to us, and when they report, they share context with us. And so on things that violate our community standards, we do take action, appropriate action, we take them down. Sometimes maybe people who do this in a coordinated manner sometimes can be removed on our platform. So it depends on the level of gravity of the violation, but action is taken. But to take action, you work closely with state and non-state actors who understand the context and can tell us against our community standards and the potential for harm why we should take one action against another. Thanks, Gigi.
I think that was also tied to one where somebody wants to know how FB handles fake accounts, online abuses, fake news. I think, have you responded to that?
Yes, in a way, but to just be clear, fake accounts on Facebook are removed. So if account is fake or impersonating and is reported to us, we do take action. There are instances where such accounts can be taken down by algorithms, so proactively, but in some instances, because of local nuances and things like that, they need to be reported for them to be taken down. And the same thing is true for misinformation. So, misinformation that can be harmful is taken down. There is some degree of misinformation that is subtle, and so we inform users that, because of an assessment of a third party, so third party fact checkers, that this content has been proven to be misinforming or untrue, or it's misappropriation and things like that. So there's an informed aspect, but if it's harmful and misinforming, if it's misinforming and harmful, content like that usually taken down.
Okay, thanks, Desmond. There's one from Wangoi, and I think she wanted to know whether Kenya gives preemptive right to locally based apps in phones imported or locally manufactured in Kenya. If yes, name the apps. If not, take it up. promote Kenya. So I think Nzano, you will respond to that. And there is also one, did Kenya shut the internet on June 25th? It actually says, Joseph, tell us the truth.
Thank you, Dr. On the first question, I'll take it up. Allow us to take it up, and we will look at the issues of those preemptive rights on mobile apps. I think it's a very good question. I'm not so sure if some of the regulations which are being developed now are addressing such issues, but perhaps we need to revisit. They could be. If not, perhaps then it's an opportunity to add on something and perhaps have a conversation around this area. So whoever who asked the question, I think it was, can reach out to me and the CA team, and we will work, and of course through Grace we will give an official response and perhaps have it published at some point.
Yeah.
Now,
actually, there's
about are you asking about the? Which question are you asking about? The device or the? I was going to the next question.
Yeah, I think Nzano, there was also tied to that. There is still on efforts to expose African internet creations to global market,
yeah, and
whether we have a framework supporting the creation of AI development ops in Kenya. I think that's also tied to that issue of framework. Yeah, so please give a response and.
Okay, so.
A very short response. If you're not able, please give guidance, give direction, because we need to now complete. Clear.
True. Okay, so AI, of course, is a new technology which is growing, and. Personally, I'm not aware of government initiatives towards this area, but I'm sure my colleagues are here, my team are here, they might want to comment to this later on in the other sessions. Now, the issue of, I wanted to answer the issue of June 25th. I don't know why we are, I think that's what I wanted to answer now. Okay, we have been working, of course, with IGF for many times. I remember way back in 2022 elections, there was the issue of no shutdown during elections, you remember? And we worked together. We came here, we had conversations, we had all the experts in the industry, and after we left here, I think we made a pact that this issue of shutdown doesn't exist. So a few days before 25th, there were these rumors going around. We issued a statement. I don't know if you have not seen it, please check it in the social media. We issued a statement indicating that, of course, there is no intention at all of shutting down the internet. I think that's the most I can say as of now. But of course, there are many other mechanisms of ensuring cyber hygiene, which has already been articulated by my colleague here, Meta, on terms of unacceptable content on the net. So of course that collaboration is there. We pick it, and of course we converse with the various providers. Thank you.
All right, Kate, there's a question you asked about harvesting use of data in the conversations being generated on it. I think we have a session in the afternoon where we will have a report on that, and that will be a good platform to ask. I think, so your opinion, okay. So I think some of those questions can be dealt in other sessions, relevant sessions. What is the plan of the government to provide platform for public participation and feedback instead of using third-party platforms? Again, that Nzano. You can take some of this as feedback, but you can respond if you want.
We'll take it as feedback. I know the e-citizen platform has quite a number of different platforms being used on the back end, but I'm sure the team there is working very hard to make it uniform in terms of back end, and ensuring sustainability of the applications and systems. So it's work in progress, but indeed, of course, we can reach out to the e-citizen guys and prompt them also to tell us what they are doing on that end.
Okay. I know, Nzano, some of those questions have been kind of hot, and my role here as the moderator is also to protect my panelists. So I will encourage you to have a bilateral with Nzano, and we also have other members from the regulator. They are sitting at this front table here, and you can have a bilateral during tea time or lunch and raise some of those questions. The good thing I know is that CA listens. I don't know if you still listen. At least you used to listen. And even act. So 8 minutes, so 1 minute each panelist to give us a call to action, practical ways of implementing what we have just discussed from your perspective. And it is because, you know, the conversations we hold during the IGF continue to inform the work that is done the following year. So a call to action, and we will start with Desmond coming this way. Desmond, in 1 minute, because we have to finish on time.
Okay, thank you so much, Gigi. I think for me, the first thing to Nzano and the CA team, regulatory sandboxes are great. I think to Kenya ICT Network, one of the things that you've been doing really, really well is ensuring that we have a framework, a business operating environment that is conducive for innovation and that upholds inclusion, transparency, and fairness and things like that. What might be helpful is to export some of these best practices to other countries. You know, I think as we've seen these days, some of the digital frameworks or guidelines are done at regional level. So within EAC, within Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, just playing a much bigger role so that what works here can be something that works for the majority of the people. The last bit is, even as you regulate, as we think about AI and innovation, I think it's usually common for most stakeholders to think about how can we protect ourselves from Meta or OpenAI. It's more important, in my opinion, to ensure that we are creating an environment where Inua AI, that the PS was talking about, can become global. So thinking about local innovations that start out of Kenya that become global in scope and impact. And so if you think about it from that perspective, maybe you might land in a different regulatory environment from the one that we currently see happen. Thanks, Gigi.
Thank you. I think those are very good remarks from Meta, which I want to align to. And more to that, of course, I will not add more from what the PS has said. It is our senior this morning, that indeed we need to continue building our stakeholder, a multi-stakeholder approach towards the various issues within the internet governance as we progress into the future. I think that's the main take home for us today. We keep on listening. And as Dr. has said, indeed, in the authority we listen and we action. And of course, we believe we can extend this to government. And we shall continue to participate in such forums where we can get open and candid feedbacks. That's why we are here today. I mean, so that we're able to listen to you and converse together. Thank you so much.
On call to action, for me, I will still speak about connectivity, because you're not yet there. And we still need to take services to our people. So calling on all the stakeholders, including us, to play a big part in that. And then the other bit, once connectivity is in place, is to safeguard it. And one of the key things we need to do is protect our infrastructure. Make sure that there are laws in place to be able to make sure that any vandals law is taken on that, because I don't think it's taken seriously in our country, and you find people trenching, cutting our fiber and affecting our citizens. Then the other bit, we need to put a law in place the same way NCA approves building construction. We should have data connectivity put in place as part of the approvals by NCA. That is another body we need, so that for every building that comes up, that is in play, and it is a non-negotiable. Then also device affordability, I have talked about that. More tax incentives, more local assembly. And then in the cybersec space, we need to do more. I know work has started. In the same way you have put in cybersecurity, data privacy, when it comes to AI, we are underrepresented as Africa in that space. And we need to put content out there that is either suitable for us and that matches our culture as well. Because I remember the first AI model that was for face recognition that was built, it could not recognize an African face. So what role are we playing? And this is a call to all of us to make sure that we play in that space, and the time is now. So connectivity to our citizens is a non-negotiable. Let's play a big role in that. Thank you.
Judy, as you watch on time.
Thank you. So my call to action is let's keep the internet on and ensure that it's open, transparent, and inclusive. This way we are able to connect better, we are able to move together, and we are able to do a bit much more better. And this calls for a multi-pronged approach, so that then it's the civil society working together with the non-government organizations, government, philanthropies, media, academia. Every stakeholder is critical in ensuring that this is achieved. Thank you.
The final one, and the clock is ticking. Call for action.
1 minute.
1 minute. I have 3 points. First, we need to keep engaging and applying ourselves as a whole society. We need to move out of the niche for policy making, and I think we're on a good way there. Second, we need to continue proactively to bring the different dimensions together. Open, transparent internet and privacy and security, for example, they're not on different ends of the spectrum. They go hand in hand. We would be fools to assume that cybersecurity is a niche topic for tech experts. We need to understand all dimensions and perspectives, users, platform providers, big tech, small tech, research, all of it. And 3, accessibility. I think there we still have a long way to go. Language, local languages, dialect, voice to text, text to voice. We have a lot of options there. It's something we need to focus more on every day in all our actions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Panelists, if we were to do a word cloud, we would hear words like partnerships, collaboration, engaging, connectivity, accessibility. The first time Nzano talked about the Kenya IGF, of course I wasn't there, but when you talk about, we've been talking about being inclusive, and since we got into COVID, the Kenya IGF has endeavored to include even persons with disabilities, and as you can see, we have a full table of them represented there, and we want to clap for them for engaging in this process.